Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Thank you so much for coming to this class and for your interest in these topics. Um, let's just take a moment and think about your motivation for being here today. Make it as high as you can. Make it as big as you can. One of the reasons for thinking about your motivation first thing when going to a class, or actually when doing anything like getting in the car to drive somewhere, or opening a book, or making dinner, or whatever it is to it makes the goal stronger in your mind, and it helps you keep your attention on it while you're doing whatever it is that you're doing, which can make the karma that you're creating more powerful. So, Lamso Namsum, the three principal paths. Today we're going to wrap up discussion of the first path, renunciation. So before we get started, does anyone have any questions? Let me open up chat so I can tell if someone has any questions. Okay, so we'll dive right in then. So last time we met, we were talking about two practices, two kinds of contemplations you could do relating to loosening your desire for this life. What was the first one? It was a set of 2 8s. Leisures and fortunes, and thinking about how difficult they are to find. And then the other is death and impermanence. So those are contemplations that will help us lose our attraction to this life. Um, I mean, everything that we are attracted to in this life will be of no interest or value to us a second after we die. We won't care a single thing about anything that so concerns us now about this life. And if we knew that it could end tonight, how might we live our life differently? How might we live this day differently if we knew that tonight we would die? This life would end. Pabonka Rinpoche talks about how, someone comes to your house and says, I'm going to come back and I'm going to murder you. But it could be tomorrow or it could be 30 days from now. It's going to happen for sure that I'm going to come back and get you. But you don't know if it'll be tonight or tomorrow or 30 days from now. So you would probably start protecting yourself immediately, right? You wouldn't wait a week or 29 days before putting reinforced locks on your doors and windows, you know? But that's how we think about this life normally. I can catch up on my practice right before I die. I can study all those topics that I wanted to learn right before I die. Life expectancy is high. I've got some of you are really young. You have many, many years if you live to your life expectancy, and I hope that you do and go beyond. But we think it's so far away. But we don't know. We don't know. And then we don't know for the next life whether it's going to be a life with all the leisures and fortunes that we have in this one. And it's so very rare to have all of these leisures and fortunes. Think about, even if you just thought about all the creatures that live like right around your house or your apartment. There are thousands and thousands and thousands of them crawling around in the earth, flying in the sky, buzzing around here and there. Literally tens of thousands of living beings live right around you. And if you think about how many live on this whole planet that aren't human, not even thinking about hell realms or hungry ghosts, hungry spirits. To be human with the leisures and fortunes we have is so rare and so precious. And we talked about the turtle in the sea. It's illustrative. It shows this story of just how rare it is that we could stick our neck through this little tube floating on the ocean. And again, have this kind of human life with an interest in the Dharma and access to these teachings. of the mind and a body that can hear them and think about them, put them into practice. So now we turn our attention to stopping desire for future lives. Now, for some of us live in a culture that accepts future lives, or at the very least have been exposed to the idea of there being future lives as a young person. Some of us live in cultures where that's not thought about, it's not accepted that there's such a thing as a future life. Some of our cultures have religions that talk about there'll be one more future life, and it'll either be in a heaven or a hell, and then that's all she wrote. That's it. Some of us come from places where religions where you are born again and again and again, and that each time you're born, you go higher and higher and higher. So there are lots of different ideas about what comes next. But I think typically speaking, we don't have much of a desire, much less a thought about future life, our future life. Except when we get older and we get, if we're fortunate to get older, and we get closer to death in the sense that people around us, people who've been our friends, our family, it starts to be where there's someone dying. I mean, it starts off like maybe once every decade someone dies, and it's a huge shock. And then it becomes every year. Oh, so and so died. And then it becomes more than once a year. And you start feeling a little like, oh, yeah, death is coming. So the more that happens around you, the more you think about what's next. Um, and a lot of people think about, oh, I would like to go to heaven. And even in Buddhism, there's a whole there's groups of Buddhist sects who focus on like Tushita heaven, for example. I want to be reborn in Tushita heaven. Uh, but that kind of attachment, and I can't say what people's motivations are, but if the motivation is not to want to benefit all living beings and lead them out of samsara, out of suffering, then it's just a normal worldly motivation. Uh, may I be comfortable in my next life. So we're going to talk first about a proof for future life. And so you know we're studying a Lam Rim, steps on the path. And the one that we're going to talk today is from Lam Rim Chenmo, one of Jason Kapa's most powerful, fantastic books. And it's a simple proof, but it's difficult to tokpa. If you remember tokpa, it's difficult to realize, difficult to make a part of our hearts, especially for those of us who come from cultures where we don't accept future lives. So right now, at this moment, you have awareness of being in this class. You have a stream of awareness that's going on. So you are aware of the stream that happened before this moment. Like you can think back to when I asked you to think of your motivation for being here today in this class. You can see with your mind's eye that awareness that you had at that moment. Your mind is like a mirror, and so your mind is like reflecting what that awareness of, a few minutes ago was like. And then you can think about what was your awareness, your experience before you came and logged online to the Zoom call. You can think about where you were, what you were doing. And you can go back and back, further and further. The first part of the day, the first part of the week, the first part of the month, first part of the year. But what we've just shown, just by even going back to the earlier part of this day, is that there is a continuum, that there are moments of awareness that come before a moment of awareness. That our mind goes in a stream or a string of moments of awareness. And if we think about it, we can also see that what we think about, what our feelings might be, what we put into our mind through books or videos or teachings, gatherings with people, what we put into our mind affects how our mind is later. If I used to read there's this horror author named Stephen King, and I used to read his books like crazy. A new one would come out, and I would like stay up all night to finish it because he's a good writer. I wasn't necessarily so keen on the horror part, but there we have it. And but then, oh, I couldn't sleep after that because I had put into my mind uh, very scary, frightful things. I was kind of a dumb 21-year-old, I got to tell you. But like with the Good Night Book Club, with the Shuang Tower, if you're familiar with that, Geshe Michael is advising people to read the Dharma before read some books of the teachings before going to sleep, because that can your mind, the mirror of your mind, can reflect those teachings as you sleep, and those teachings can be reflected in your dreams, which I think is beautiful. But even speaking at a normal, conventional level, I think most human beings accept that there is a stream of consciousness. Otherwise, why would we send our children to schools? Why would we think that's important? If we didn't think that what you taught them in kindergarten or in first grade wouldn't be like a stepping stone to what you would teach them in third grade and fourth grade, and then all the way up through graduate school. Like, we remember, we were taught how to read. We know this. Now, the cause for our awareness of this moment has to be another awareness. We've known, like through science and through our own experience, that that's what happens with physical things, that if you look at a physical thing, its causes are similar physical things. And it's the same with awareness. Our awareness is caused by a previous moment of awareness. This concept is called Nierlengi Gyu. Nierlengi Gyu. The material cause. And of course, when we're talking about the cause of awareness, we're not talking about material stuff. But it is something of the same nature. It is a mental awareness that is the cause for this current awareness. The body is not the cause for our awareness. Mind is separate from body, is distinct from the body. We can't touch our awareness. We can't see it. We can't find a location where it is. The only qualities that mind has is that it is clear and aware. That's it. We can't find clear, and we really can't find aware. So the main cause of the consciousness that we have right now is the consciousness of the moment before. It has to be. Mental stuff can only be caused by mental stuff. To have an awareness today, we had to have an awareness yesterday. We accept this for physical things and kind of accept it for mental things. But especially for those of us in the Western world, it's challenging to go back and then find this first moment of awareness of for many cultures it's an infant first moment of life, of taking breath, that there was anything before. But if you think about it, and mothers will know this, that there was something going on there inside their body as from the moment of conception on up to birth. I think mothers are aware of that there are times when it was moving, awake, moving around, sometimes agitated, sometimes maybe more playful, like you feel like, oh, I'm getting poked here and there. She's tickling me. And then sometimes when they're sleeping. So mothers know that there's some sort of consciousness going on in the womb. But then we go to that moment. What about the moment before, when the sperm punctured the egg? Was there a moment of consciousness before that? There had to have been. Consciousness, like anything else, doesn't just come from nothing, from nowhere. Consciousness, like all physical matter, is beginningless. Physical matter just gets reconstituted into things, dust to dust, they say in the Christian Bible and the Jewish Bible. So we have had past lives. must have been. And right now, if you are who you appear to be, we only can figure this out through logic. We don't have a personal, or are not aware of a personal experience of previous lives. Children sometimes do, they talk about things, or they're maybe scared of things, scared of the thing that was the last thing that they saw before they died last life. They don't have the words or the understandings in this body and mind that they're in to talk about it or understand it. But sometimes some kids do. So there's no other proof in Buddhist philosophy other than that one. Anyone have any questions? Okay. So next we'll talk about a proof of sorts for what our future life will be like. And to talk about that, we have to talk a little bit more about karma. Now, those of you who have been around Geshe Michael's teachings will know this. If you have not, and you can send, if you haven't, then this will be new information for you. So we're going to talk about the 4 laws of karma, the 4 principles of karma. And basically, we're talking about this so that we can make the link between what we do in this life with what our experience will be in the future life, in future lives. The first principle, or the first law, is called le Say le ngepa. Le, which we're going to have a lot of today, le, that means karma, which of course is a Sanskrit word, and I didn't properly translate the word for you. Le means action. There are 3 types of le, 3 types of karma. Can anyone tell me what those 3 types are? There are actions you do with your mind. Oh, I'm seeing a list of 3 there, but it's in a language I don't understand. Think, speech, and action, right? Mind, speech, and body. We normally think of action related to our body, right? Although our mind moves, even though it's not physical, our mind does move. It holds an object of awareness, and it moves to another object. We have this sensation sometimes that, like, oh, my thoughts are going so fast, or I can't get my mind to slow down, even though it's not a physical thing. So interesting. Anyway, as we talked about, as I mentioned briefly last time, we didn't talk about it. So I mentioned last time this line from the Abhidharma Kosha, Lele jiktin natsoke, lenit sempa dang deche. Karma is movement of the mind. This part here, Leni Sempa Dang Deche. Mind is movement of karma is movement of the mind and what it brings. And what it brings would be actions of speech or body. So Nepa, Nepa means definite or fixed or certain. So the first law of karma is that karma is definite. Another way to think about karma or divide karma is in types of karma. There's good karma, bad karma, and neutral karma. So this is related to this law, Lengepa, is related to that kind of division of karma. So good karma is any action of body, speech, or mind that causes the result which we experience as positive. Something we like, an attractive result. So actions are, well, we could say also that the certainty of karma, and we'll see with the other laws, is that any action will produce a result. But we'll get there. They're sort of covered in a couple other of the laws. So this is more related to if we do something that brings benefit to someone else, it is certain that the result of that action will be a positive experience for us, an attractive experience for us. And the same with negative karma, we do something that harms someone else, the result will necessarily be a negative experience. Now, the big problem here is that there's a time gap between when we do any action and experience the result of that action. Mostly things we do, like things we do without much, without any thought about Dharma. The results of those actions, we're not going to experience for a lifetime or more. They're what you could call weak karmas, in the sense that they're not powerful enough to ripen quickly. The more we put our understanding of karma and emptiness consciously in our minds as we act throughout the day, the more powerful the causes are that we're creating. And other things. I don't want to get too far down that path, but the problem is this gap between when we do any action and when we experience the result of that action. So we tend to mistake things. Like we tend to think that, oh, the thing I did, if I have a good experience, like let's say someone makes me smile. I tend to think that, oh, so the person who just smiled at me, that's what made me smile. And I made them smile because I told them a joke or something like that, that made them happy. And now I feel happy. So it was that right beforehand. But what if right before you smiled, you did something that was causing harm to someone else? Like maybe lying to someone about something you had just done, not speaking the truth about it. And then you have because you think, oh, because I lied, then this person now is doing something that I'm experiencing as being pleasant. So lying was the cause of feeling good. Lying was the cause of this person doing something kind for me. But no, that person being kind came from a different cause that you had created before that. Arya Nagarjuna, in Letter to a Friend, says that the tragic thing about karma is this gap between when we do something and when we experience the results of having done that thing. If we started to experiencing our back starting to hurt as our foot came down to on the back of a bug, we would stop immediately if we knew. We would make the association. I mean, we're kind of dumb, but we're not all that dumb, right? I mean, we would stop stepping on the bug. So no positive action we ever undertake will lead to our future suffering. And no negative action we do could ever possibly lead to us having a good experience in the future. This next one, the second law, is lepel chewa. C'est lepel chewa. Le again is karma. Pel means to increase, to get bigger. The temple where Geshe Michael took teachings from his teacher is called Rashi Gempel Ling. And Gempel, that's virtue. And Pel means to get bigger. So Gempel is to increase virtue, which I think is quite lovely. Pelge is, I have a friend whose name is Pelge. And that means prosperity is getting bigger, increasing prosperity, multiplying. L, increase or get bigger. And chewa means really big. Bigger and bigger. So it's increasing and getting bigger and bigger. And the Pel Chewa together is, I think you could call it exponential, if you know that word, exponential. Like, let's say that well, what they say is that in every 24-hour period, karma grows, it doubles. So if you start off with, let's just say it has the power of 10. When at the end of 24 hours, it becomes 20. At the end of 48 hours, so 2 days, it becomes 40. At the end of 3 days, 72 hours, it becomes 80. Every day, it doubles. So that's growing exponentially. You look at the curve, it starts off here, and then it just like goes up very steeply. So that's a good thing for when we do positive actions, right? That we'll have experiences that are pleasant. Not such a good thing when we're doing actions that harm other people. And we can think about this exponential growth when we think about trees. We plant a seed, something that is so very small. And this tiny little thing, with the right conditions, becomes a humongous tree, much, much larger than its cause. And the same with human beings. This teeny tiny little sperm and this teeny tiny little egg that we can't even see with our eyes, they're so small, creates this, body of physical body of bone and skin and flesh, and mind of awareness that goes on for like 70, 80 years if we're lucky. That's a huge result compared to those teeny tiny little things. So karma's like that. That's the second law of karma. The third is lema chepa dangmi trepa. Say lema chepa dangmi trepa. So I've kind of talked about this before, where ma or m words, especially short ones, ma, me, me, those are negatives. So we've got a couple of ma's in here, ma chepa and mi trepa. So le is karma. Chepa means did, the past tense of to do, did. So ma chepa, oops, I'll do this one. Ma chepa means didn't do. Dang means and. Ma trepa. Mi trepa. I have to fix that. I have to be more careful in my editing of Tibetan. I'll fix that. Mi trepa is what it is. And tre, tre means to touch or to make contact. When two things touch or make contact. It's often used, it's used in the Wheel of Life. If you know the Wheel of Life teachings, one of the links on the Wheel of Life is making contact. It's when your awareness is making contact with an object. So lema chepa, dangmi trepa. What this is saying is that if you didn't do it, you won't touch it. You won't come into contact. So, what is it you didn't do? Whatever it is you didn't do. If you didn't create a cause, you cannot experience its result. There's no cause. Let's say you have the goal of wanting to get out of the realm of suffering, for example. But you don't create any causes. You don't do any actions that would be the cause to experience getting out of the realm of suffering. Well, then you are not going to meet that result. You're not going to come into contact with the result of being free from samsara if you didn't do anything, if you didn't create any causes. I mean, it's not like we learn about these teachings and then what our meditation is just sit down and say, oh, I hope I become enlightened. I hope I become enlightened. Oh, please, I hope I become enlightened. I hope no one teaches that that's the cause for enlightenment. If it were, I tell you, we'd probably all be enlightened by now, right? I mean, I've said it in the past. Oh, I hope I become enlightened someday. I hope it's soon. We would all be enlightened if that were the cause. Similarly, the fourth law of karma, lechepa chu misawa, se lechepa chu misawa. So chepa we just had, which means we had it as ma chepa. Here it's without the negative. It's just chepa. So it's done. Have done. We did or have done. Action, we've done an action. Now here, this is an instance where it's a Tibetan thing where the negative particle is coming in the middle of a word. Chumisawa. So the word is chusawa. And the negative comes right in here. So chutsawa, it means to go away or disintegrate, fade away. And me, of course, is negative. So doesn't go away, doesn't fade away. So if we do an action, the result doesn't just go away. In other words, if we do something, not if we do something, when we do something, we will experience its result. We will experience the result of every action we do. Now, there are ways to purify our negative actions, which are covered in later courses. So we don't need to lose total hope, That doesn't mean it will be impossible for us to avoid experiencing the negative results of all the negative actions we have done. It can be very scary at the beginning. At least I was very scared when I first heard these teachings, because for really the first time in my life, I was looking at, what have I been doing? What actions have I taken in my life? And being more aware day to day as I'm doing anything, more aware, like what's my motivation? How is what I'm doing right now affecting other people? Am I trying to benefit them, or am I, trying to harm them? I was a really, really mean person, very sarcastic. A lot of harsh speech before I met the Dharma. So I was like, uh-oh, what I've created is going to be really horrific. It's going to be nasty. So that's scary. But I also know that I also learned, right, that if I do actions to benefit others, those also must ripen. I must experience pleasurable results in the future. So anyone who learns about karma, instead of like hiding under rock, intelligent students like you will be out doing lots of actions to benefit others. But you are more intelligent than that. We're going to talk about suffering, right? We talked about, these are, we're talking about how can we loosen our attachment to future lives. But it just sounds like when you talk about this, if I do things that benefit others, I'm going to have good experiences in the future. That sounds like an okay thing. Okay, future lives. That's fine. I'll just spend all my time doing things to benefit others. I'll find someone to teach me how to purify all the negative stuff I did. Then I'll have, sweet future lives. If only we had complete control over everything that we think and say and do, right? I mean, I notice that sometimes like words will come out of my mouth and it's like, where did this come from? I'll say something really stupid and it's like, where did that come from? That when karma ripens, I mean, we think we're in control most of the time, but really we're just experiencing the results, the ripenings of what we've done before. So there's like little clues that, hey, you're not in charge here. But that's getting into emptiness, and really we want to stay on the side of karma. So just looking at the karma side, at the action side, on the positive side, not positive, negative, but positive as in good, bad, but just positive as of things to do, versus an absence, which is what emptiness is. We have to look more closely at samsara. And when we call it the realm of suffering, the cycle of suffering, and there are different ways to talk about the suffering that it is we experience in this cycle. Sometimes it's talked about as the 3 sufferings, sometimes the 4 sufferings, and we're going to talk about it in terms of the 6 sufferings. That's what Duknyam Druk means, 6 sufferings. The first suffering is Nyepa Mepe Nyepa. It's a little bit of a tongue twister. Say Nyepa Mepe Nyepa. Now, each of these 6 are going to end with Nyepa. And Nyepa, Geshe Michael has translated as a problem. A problem about something, or a disadvantage of something. Nepa, we had this above when we were talking about the first law of karma. Do you remember the first law of karma? Certainty. Certainty. Mepa, so this is a very strong negative word, meaning there is none. So the first problem, the first suffering of the 6 sufferings, is there is no certainty. We never know what's going to happen next. Here we are at this moment in time. There have been beginningless moments of time in a stream before this one, when we're creating 67 karmic seeds every finger snap. That's a whole heck of a lot of karmic seeds. Countless numbers of them. We don't know which one of them is going to ripen in any moment. And we know this. We see it in our life, that it seems like, oh, everything is going really well. And then boom, you get a flat tire and you gotta in the rain and there's no one to help you. And then you got to figure out how to change that tire in the rain on a busy highway. Or conversely, everything's going really badly. You lost your job, you lost your partner, you got a run in your stockings. People don't wear stockings anymore. You got a hole in your shirt. And then you go to the mailbox and then there's someone sent you $100. And you're like, oh. So we never know what's going to happen. Which karmic seed is going to ripen next? The next one is Ngompa Mepe Nepa. All these are kind of like tongue twisters, actually. Say Ngompa, Ngompa, Mepe Yepa, Mepe Nyepa. So Mepe Nyepa, we just had. The problem is there isn't Ngompa. What's Ngompa? Ngompa is satisfaction, contentment. We're never satisfied. We always want more. Just like the song says, you can't get no satisfaction. The Rolling Stones, those of you my age will remember that song. No one's my age. I'm the oldest one in the room. Okay, Utpala, get back on track. It's like we get a job somewhere and we get our foot in the door with a new job, and then we want to make more money, or we want to have more responsibility. But even if we get a raise and a promotion, after a while, we want more. I want an even higher position. I want to make even more money. Or we buy a car, for our first car, and it's like, oh, it doesn't matter if it's a used car, an old beater, as we call it in the United States, a car that's on its last couple thousand miles. But it's my first car. Americans have a real thing about cars. After, you're so happy about that first car. And then it's not too much longer when I want a better car. This isn't going to work for me anymore. I need a better car. And it keeps on going. Some people are so aware of their desire for a better car that they never buy one. They lease them. And the lease only lasts for so long. And they always get a newer, better, more expensive car. And their lease amount keeps going up and up and up. And they're getting a better and bigger and faster car or whatever. It's crazy. We're never satisfied. Or if we are, it doesn't last very long. The third Nyepa, third problem is Lu Yang Ne Yang Du Doorway Nyepa. Say Lu Yang Ne Yang Du Doorway. Lu, this means body. And what we had, was it the first class? We had the word ku. It means the same thing. but ku is when we talk about an enlightened being's body. So us ordinary beings, if there is anyone ordinary other than me on this Zoom call, we have a lu body. Yang ne yang du. We had this when we talked about, it was last class, so it was only a couple days ago, when we talked about samsara. It means over and over, over and over and over and over. Dorwa means to discard or throw off or shed, get rid of. So altogether, it's the problem of getting rid of a body over and over and over. So we had this idea, this suffering and the next one are very closely related, and they are what we talked about when we talked about what samsara is, what the circling in the cycle of suffering is. We have to die over and over and over and over again. If we were to, if we could see all the bodies that we have cast off for all this beginningless time, I mean, we can't even imagine it. It would be a stack of bodies bigger than anything we could imagine. And it's painful, death. It's painful. So the fourth problem is yang yang ning sam jowe nepa. Say yang yang ning sam jowe nepa. So yang yang is just an abbreviation of yang ne yang du. Yang yang, over and over and over and over and over and over. Ningsam is an old word, and it refers to the border between death and birth. And if you've come to the mixed nuts classes, this has come up in a few of the books that we've been working on translating. We cross over into a new life. We cross this border between death and birth. And Jorwa means that we close this borders. In other words, we actually cross the border. So that means we take on a new body and mind combination over and over and over and over and over. Birth isn't any fun. We don't really remember that. But you know what I do remember? I remember being a teenager And that was brutal. Going through those hormones, oh my gosh. No, I never want to go through that again. That's bad enough, right? Okay. The fifth problem is yang tomen du girwe nipa. Yang, say yang, tomen tu girwe nipa. So yang again means over and over and over and over. To, toa means high. And men means low. Girwa means to become. So this is the problem of going high and low and high and low. We could say vacillating over and over and over again between being in high station or being in a low station. And the older we get, I mean, the more we see that, yeah, we just cycle through. The first time the cycle happens, going down from high to low, it can be quite jarring. But then, it just keeps on happening. And then you go, oh, this again. Okay. I'm now lower again. Such is the way of life. Oh, now I'm higher. Okay. Now I'm higher again. I can afford eggs now. Okay, that's good. I used to work for the governor of a state, and people paid me a lot of respect in that position. And I had this notion that it had to do with me. The moment that I lost that job, and I lost because he didn't run again, so because I served at the pleasure of the governor, then I lost that position and had to find new work. People basically just ignored me. But I was like, well, wait a minute. Just last week, you were listening to everything I had to say and taking my advice. And no, I went from high station to low station just like that. Okay, sixth problem of the circle of suffering is drok mepe neba. Drok. Drok means friend or companion. Mepa, mepe, so you remember, means there is no. So this is the problem of not having a companion. Ultimately, we are alone. There is no one who, unless we die at a very young age and it's our mother, there's no one who's with us our whole life. But even when we're doing that, crossing the border between death and life, death and birth, there's no one who comes along with us. on that crossing. Whatever friends we may have had in this life, they only are in this life. They do not come with us. So one of the sufferings of human life is that we're on our own, totally alone. So contemplating these sufferings, these 6 sufferings, we can loosen our attachment to a future life. So we should be understanding now what this means is we want to get out of the cycle of suffering. It's not enough to just be to have a nicer rebirth, because there will be suffering associated with that. Continued suffering over and over and over. Young. So renunciation is wanting to get out of that cycle. So how do we know when we've found renunciation? I'll just go through this quickly because I've used up so much time. Nyinsen kuntu tarpa dunya lo jungna detse ngenjuk kepela. Nyin is day. Sen is night. Kuntu, here it means all of, but here is talking about both day and night. All day, all night. Tarpa, that's the word for freedom. And here we're talking about freedom from suffering. Excuse me. Dunya, we had this before. It was one of the qualities of a student, which is aspiring for something higher. And lo is mind. Jung happens, and na here means when. So when it happens, detse, at that time, ngenjung, we all know this word, right? Ngenjung, renunciation. Kepa, say it has developed, past tense, developed. La, it is. It is. So renunciation has developed at the time when your mind is thinking of day and night, all day, all night, about going higher to freedom. So renunciation is when it's constantly in your mind that you want to get out of this realm of suffering. So every time you have that thought, we have to sometimes treat ourselves like children, right? At any time you have that thought, rejoice, be happy. Yay, I had the thought. I want to get out of suffering. Bravo, well done. That night, be sure and do your coffee meditation on having had that thought of renunciation. So, Thank you for your attention. Thank you for your participation. Thank you, live translators. Thank you, technical support people. Thank you, ACI. Thank you, Zoom. Thank you, Geshe Michael, for sharing these teachings. And have fun. And I'll see you again next week.